In the wake of the recent collapse of the Gaza ceasefire, President Donald Trump's approach to supporting Israel has entered a new and more complicated phase. For years, America's alliance with Israel has been viewed as almost sacrosanct, a pillar of U.S. foreign policy, reinforced by shared interests, values, and strategic calculations. But as the situation on the ground has shifted, and the ceasefire unraveled, Trump's actions and rhetoric suggest a recalibration is underway. His reasons for pulling back on unconditional support are not simple, but rather a complex interplay of military, diplomatic, political, and strategic considerations. First and foremost, Trump's prioritization of military advantage reshapes the traditional calculus. Historically, the United States has often pressed for ceasefires when conflicts in the Middle East flare up, seeking to limit violence and restore stability. But Trump has argued, as he did during previous flare-ups, that pushing for a ceasefire when Israel is on the offensive can be counterproductive. In his view, if Israel is gaining ground and degrading its adversaries' capabilities, a pause in hostilities might only serve to rob them of victory and momentum. Thus, withholding support for a new ceasefire, or even pulling back from overt assistance, is seen less as abandoning Israel and more as stepping aside to let them press their military advantage. This approach appeals to Trump's instincts as a dealmaker. Strength and leverage are always more valuable than premature compromise. Second, Trump's well-known transactional approach to diplomacy plays a major role. For him, alliances and support are rarely unconditional. He views international relations as a series of deals, with each side expected to uphold its end of the bargain. The collapse of the Gaza ceasefire, with both Israel and its adversaries accused of violations, raises the question: does Israel still meet the terms of Trump's support? If the answer is not necessarily, then Trump feels justified in pulling back, signaling that continued U.S. backing depends on Israel's adherence to agreed terms and broader American interests, not sentimental or historical loyalty. A third factor is Trump's intense focus on Iran's nuclear ambitions. Unlike some of his predecessors, Trump has not prioritized peace for its own sake, but instead has kept his sights set squarely on dismantling Iran's nuclear program. From his vantage point, the Israeli-Hamas conflict is a sideshow compared to the existential threat posed by a nuclear-armed Iran. In this context, his recent decision to authorize U.S. airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities is telling. Trump's willingness to escalate directly with Iran signals that his support for Israel is now filtered through the lens of this larger strategic objective. If supporting Israel doesn't directly advance the campaign against Iran's nuclear program, Trump is less inclined to offer it unconditionally. Fourth, there is a lingering concern, shared by Trump and his advisors, that the recent ceasefire may have inadvertently allowed Iran and its proxies to regroup. Truces, while offering temporary relief, can give adversaries the breathing room they need to rearm, reorganize, and prepare for renewed conflict. By pulling back on support for another ceasefire, Trump aims to prevent his adversaries from gaining this advantage, reinforcing his belief in the value of sustained pressure over periodic pauses. Fifth, Trump is consciously shifting his messaging from that of a peacemaker to a power broker. Earlier in his presidency, he positioned himself as a mediator able to broker historic agreements. But with the ceasefire's collapse, Trump now appears more interested in exerting pressure, rewarding those who win, punishing those who lose, and making it clear that American support is not a given. This aligns with his broader image as a leader unafraid to make tough calls and break with diplomatic tradition. Political optics at home provide a sixth motivation. Trump's base expects strength, decisiveness, and a refusal to appear weak on the world stage. Pushing for ceasefires or appearing to pressure Israel into restraint runs counter to this brand. By pulling back on support for Israel after the ceasefire's collapse, Trump reinforces his never appear weak posture, a key element of his appeal to core supporters. Yet Trump is also wary of the damage that mounting civilian casualties could do to both Israel's and America's international image. he has repeatedly warned that images of civilian harm erode global support for Israel and complicate U.S. foreign policy. With the ceasefire broken and violence escalating, Trump's prior criticism of Israel's military tactics may now serve as a limit to how far he's willing to go in providing public backing. In essence, he wants to avoid being seen as complicit in actions that harm innocents and damage America's reputation abroad. Another important factor is the increasingly fractured relationship with European allies. Trump has often clashed with European leaders over Middle East policy and has shown little patience for multilateral diplomatic efforts he deems costly or ineffective. By pulling back after the ceasefire's collapse, Trump gains room to rebuff European mediation, asserting American independence and sidestepping entanglements that could constrain his freedom of action. Ninth, Trump's relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has become more complicated. Reports suggest Trump is frustrated with what he sees as Netanyahu's inconsistent approach, particularly his hesitance to fully commit to the ceasefire's second phase, which involved Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and plans for post-conflict governance. The breakdown of the ceasefire gives Trump new leverage. By withholding support, he signals to Netanyahu that American backing is not automatic. Israeli leadership must align with American objectives or risk losing crucial assistance. Finally, the risk of regional escalation now looms larger than ever. Iran's military retaliation, coupled with growing alarm across the Middle East and among America's global partners, means that overt and unconditional support for Israel could drag the United States deeper into a wider conflict, a scenario that clashes with Trump's long-standing America First doctrine. Avoiding open-ended military commitments and costly entanglements is central to his appeal, especially in an election year. Taken together, these 10 factors reveal a president calibrating his actions to maximize leverage, minimize risk, and protect his political brand. Trump is not abandoning Israel's defense, but he is making it clear that future support will be more cautious, more conditional, and more tightly bound to America's strategic interests. The days of reflexive, unconditional backing are over, replaced by a posture that prizes strength, leverage, and transactional calculation above all. In this new phase, every decision is weighed not only against the demands of alliance, but against the shifting sands of regional power, domestic politics, and the broader imperatives of American security. As the debate over U.S. support for Israel intensifies, we want to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with the idea that President Trump should reconsider or even halt support for Israel, given the current complexities? Share your perspective in the comments below. Your voice matters in this important conversation. And if you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to support our channel by liking and subscribing for more in-depth coverage on global issues and U.S. foreign policy.